Yo, what up to all my prospectors out there who getting it in on Saturday morning? It's got to be about, I think it's hitting, let me see. Right now, it is 93, expected high of 108. Humidity pushing a little about 45%. So it's a humid day down here in the AZL. But, I just want to do this video real quick while it was on my mind because it's a lesson that I'm learning. Just do stuff when you think about it and stop hesitating and waiting. Good workout today. I am 10 weeks out from trying to get on stage for the first time. So you see my sled right behind me. I'll show you how I got it set up in a moment. But, I have one of my moving straps hooked in, 250-pound plates for a load. Got my hip belt, and I actually bought a harness to go around me as well. I just haven't pulled it out and used it yet, but the hip belt is working out fine. And just pulled it the length of the soccer field, did a half length of the field, going backwards. Really lightened up my VMO. Oh my goodness, it was lightened up my quads in ways that leg extension always hurt my old knees. But this has been just a great exercise to do. Then I sprinted the other half, and then I walked, just traditionally walked, which today was deadlift day. It was heavy day. That was pretty good. But really, let me just get into what I wanted to leave, the main message from this video I just wanted to throw out here. Number one, I ended up training for an hour and a half, and I felt good. Especially, normally during the week, that's a lot harder to get in, but I just feel real good today. And I think the main reason was because I got considerable amount of sleep. And so on that note, everybody running around trying to take that, hitting the deltoid. And it's funny to me that so many people are willing to run around and come up with all kind of, we'll just say remedies for what's going on out here, worrying about catching something. But what's funny to me is that sleep, look up the research by Dr. Matthew Walker. Get his book on why we sleep. It was really a book that changed my life. And listening to Matthew Walker, there are some other people that have, kind of taken on his mantle, used his research as well, but making a name for themselves out here in we'll call it the sleep world, if you will, or the sleep community, I don't know. Just people that's really kind of nerding out on something that, why in the world getting sleep is revolutionary. But it is today in our country. And not just our country, but around the world. So the main thing is, if you want to not have, let's just say, if you want your immune system to be right, to defend all kinds of invaders that may try to enter and get into your body, get some sleep. Don't sit up here and run and tell everybody on what they need to be doing for their health. And you sit up here then bragging about how you get 5.5 hours of sleep and you function fine. The research is very clear. And although I think research now is something that we don't tend to focus on too much in our world, because research depends on whatever the so-called government agencies are telling you, and then people go around and quote the science. But the thing is, go look at the research on sleep. Go look at the research on how different your performance is if you get 6 hours versus if you get 7.5 hours. And oh my goodness, who in the world gets 9 hours of sleep? Point is, if you're training, if you're trying to tighten up your diet, lose weight, gain weight, and of course, if you're trying to have an immune system that's going to fight off a bunch of, let's just say, invaders, get sleep. Everything else you're doing is nothing but a Band-Aid on a much larger wound. Get some sleep, and then talk to me about other ways that you're going to go about improving your health. Number two, other thing I wanted to touch on, this is actually the main thing, the sleep was the second part, but the other main thing I want to touch on, there is so much confusion, and I was kicking it with, one of my boys and one of my men, let me put it that way, one of my fellow prospectors, because this brother's certainly digging for gold always as well. But one of the things that came out during our discussion, it was the fact that, a little moth there, it was a fact that during our discussion, did I have like an ADHD moment? Shout out to my ADHD prospector folks that may be listening. I got love for you. I got love for you. Trust me, I know the struggle. I don't have it, but I know that the struggle is real. But the thing is, there seems to be, speaking of research, there seems to be a lot of confusion because we find things that are reported in the media. One media outlet or one agency will say one thing, and then within 24 to 48 hours, they will totally almost do a 180 or at least a 90-degree turn on the advice that they just gave you. And there's a ton of confusion. So, one reason that my man came up with said, I think it's because when things go on in the world, it's always easy to blame the people because you put the information out there for them to get, but then if they refuse to listen, that's on them because you said, look, this is the case and this is the case. Choose to believe whichever one. Now, of course, we already know the one that most people will believe is the one that they're constantly inundated with. However, they could always say there were reports out there. I think the best example we have of that is what happened with the Iraq War. If we go back to that, there were people out there who was like, I ain't buying all this weapons of mass destruction stuff going on out there. And then when the government came out and was like, oh, we actually acted on some bad intel. Well, then people said, well, hey, there were reports out there. You just chose not to listen. Well, why in the world would people listen when they're listening to the president? They're listening to the Joint Chief of Staff. They're listening to other people tell them what is actually going on. Then if you're coming with a narrative that's different from what the leaders are saying, you look like the so-called conspiracy theorist. So my point still is that sometimes going against the grain, you will appear to be the one confused, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the reason that they necessarily tell us conflicting pieces of information, I don't necessarily think it is to say, hey, we told you both things, so you can't say we only told you one side. We did let things out in the media that tells you the other side. I'm actually going to go on the theory of Neely Fuller. Neely Fuller points out that when you're in a room, the person with the most power is the person that knows the exit in case of calamity. So an example that he uses is if you're in a room and all of the lights go out and someone yells fire, the most powerful person in that room is the person who knows where the exit is at. Think about that for a moment. Just imagine in your mind, you're in a room, all of the lights go out. You have rich people, poor people, big people, little people, whatever. Every type of person is in there. The lights go out and someone starts screaming fire. Or let's say, I think this is something that we can probably relate to. Let's just say somebody is squeezing the trigger and all we hear is pop, 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 pop. Then what happens? Calamity. Everybody is running. Everybody is panicking. The most powerful person in that room is a person who knows what's going on and where the exit is at. I think the reason why we end up getting conflicting pieces of information is because the goal is really just to have confusion. If we go back to a little over a year ago with the George Floyd protests, riots, uprisings, whatever you want to call them, I think most of us, if you check out my last video, I talked about looking up some of the research with that. I think it's very interesting that confusion got caused. It caused confusion as in people said, I thought if we walk out the door, we pretty much die because we're sequestered in our homes. Then you also have the confusion of why are these pamphlets being put out where people are talking about, hey, we're going to gather 10 people to protest in little small cities about Black Lives Matter, et cetera, et cetera. There was just so much confusion. For some of us, we wonder how in the world is there looting going on in upper class white neighborhoods? I know out here in Arizona, that's how it was. Places that we've never seen. We always used to say, well, one thing they don't do, they don't riot in right neighborhoods. They don't go in and start looting those ritzy malls, but they did this time, didn't they? A lot of confusion, a lot of things that make you just go, as Arsenio would say, So I think, this is just my theory, I think whoever is in charge, whatever is going on, I think the real goal is just to always have confusion. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever, one thing that works really well, confusion. And if you are the only one that knows what's going on, or at least if you know where the exit is at, it immediately makes you the most powerful. Think about what happens if you just turn the lights out. If you just turn the lights out, this basic sociology right here, people will always gravitate and follow a leader. They will elect a leader even though everyone says they don't want a leader. They don't want to follow anyone. I've noticed this in the church. I've noticed this everywhere. People will follow someone who comes along and takes charge. If you only turn the lights out in the room, people will actually settle down. Hey, what's going on? The lights are out. What's happening? I don't know. The lights are going on? Oh, okay. And then someone will say, I'll go find the light switch. And then the other people in the room will sit back and say, okay, well, somebody's going to look for the lights. Everyone calm down. Some people are going to calm the crowd. Other people are going to say, I'll find a solution. And there's someone to say, everyone be still. Just be still. Stay where you are. We don't want to move around because people will get hurt. Just calm down. We'll find a solution. And then that's pretty much what people will do. And they'll actually stay calm. But all you have to do is yell, fire! All you have to do is make some shots, some sounds that sounds like a shot, or just let off one. Go ahead and fire the trigger, and people think someone's shooting, and what happens? Calamity. Now, the masses can't stay calm. The masses can't come up with a solution to their problem. Calamity breaks out. And again, the only person who can remain calm, and the person that now has the most power, is the one that knows where the exit is at. No one else knew where the exit was at. Just gonna leave you that. Think about that. When you get a little scared, when you're wondering, well, what in the world's going on? All this conflicting information, I don't know what's happening out in the world. Well, that's probably by design. I hope you don't think that sounds like, again, being a conspiracy theorist. I would say, drop me an email, blackprospector@gmail.com. Leave a comment below in the video. Let me know, am I way off? If you have another reason, I always say, do you think that history happens by accident, or do you think that we have a more planned view of history? If you have an accidental or coincidental view of history, you think that things just happen because they just go that way. Personally, I think I've lived too long and watched enough history now to know better than that. So that being said, get it in today, y'all. Let me show you my little setup here. Let me show you what I got. All right, so I picked up my sled. So here we go. Let me see what you can see. We got my hip belt, my toe strap, my 2 plates, wrap my strap in right around there, and we're about to get busy marching that way. Holla at y'all later. Like and subscribe on the video below, and get it in today. Heat, humidity, ain't no excuse. Ain't no excuse for you to be sleeping in on today. I notice everybody inside my gym over there, it's the same people I see during the week. It's the same people I see on Saturdays, same people I see on Sundays. And those are the people that are in there achieving their goals. Not the folks that simply always saying, I'm gonna start Monday, I'm gonna start at the beginning of the year. Nope, they in there grinding it on an early morning. I hope you prospectors get out there and do the same thing. Peace.